Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Money and Me podcast by the Coin Republic. And today we have yet another super interesting guest. We have the co founder of Threefold, Florian, with us, and he's been up to some amazing work. We are going to hear all about it and the amazing journey that, Florian, you've had in the Web3 crypto and blockchain space. So, if you could go ahead and tell us about how you landed in this space exactly, that would be a great starter, I feel.
Great. Well, thank you for having me and being here today. So, my personal journey into that space is kind of interesting because it started out of necessity, where after spending 8 years working for Apple, I ended up like creating an education platform, and it became very successful, and the hosting cost of the platform became super high. So I really suffered from how to scale a project and an education video platform with the current infrastructure layer of the internet that is centralized. And therefore, I ended up with all those costs of hosting on me. And at that moment, I started to look at all the decentralized solution that could exist to recreate the right tech stack to be able to host the internet and to host such platform. So it was how I met with Christophe Despiegler, who was my partner and co-founder, and who had like been building like the layer zero, like the plumbing layer of the internet, like compute, storage, network, uh, data duplication system. So like all the plumbing layer that usually people don't see and people don't talk much about, but is extremely important if you want to create a resilient internet system for the planet.
Absolutely. And you mentioned how you were always sort of drawn to decentralization. If you can talk a little bit about that, why did you choose the decentralized world as, some place that you would continue building in? Because for a lot of entrepreneurs, the initial journey is, faced with success and they want to just make some quick bucks, but others are here to stay. And I believe that you're one of those entrepreneurs. So why did you choose this space in particular, and what has kept you in building the threefold platform that you are building?
Well, I spent more than 15 years of my life in the global south between in the global south between like Brazil and Africa with Zanzibar for the last 3 years, and I see decentralization as a pure necessity, like something that is actually. I'm part of the, let's say, those who are here for banking the unbanked and connect the unconnected. And when we talk about DPing and decentralizing the physical network, um, in some places, it can be interesting and exciting and complementary, but in other places, it's just out of necessity that you need actually to use decentralization to create a new system and to compensate for what is right now not really working.
Absolutely. And I know that when I was going through Threefold's website, I saw that it emphasizes on empowering communities. And you also spoke about some great things like, banking the unbanked. And we know that even though quite a bit of the world is trying to be banked, there are there more than the crowds that we know who are unbanked even now, in quite a few geographies, like of course Africa, a few Asian geographies, and the Latam communities. And you're trying to empower communities beyond the technical layer and the socioeconomic or governance models, which you feel are very critical or crucial for communities. um, how do you guys exactly empower or connect with the communities in the regions that you're currently based out of? And what are the key factors that you've sort of deployed for this communitization, so to say?
Yeah. Well, thanks for the question. Actually, it's let's take it by parts. So, like what we developed so far was a community of people as a very large live test network at scale that is already in 51 countries, where we have 25 petabytes of storage, where we have like more than 60,000 CPUs interconnected because we had to prove that we could really recreate the internet from scratch, from the ground up, from compute and storage, um, and network capabilities. And the way that now we're looking at things is that now that the let's say the technological development phase is done, now we're looking into all the different countries and communities where we have reached, to see how we can be the best of service, for people to run locally nodes, for people to run locally their own network, and to be enabling a new use case on top of the threefold grid. One of them that is extremely exciting is that we've been looking very closely at cooperatives, for instance. Cooperatives are a very old model of organizations. I think we can think of them as the ancestor of the DAOs, no? Somehow. Um, but they're extremely efficient and they are extremely big. Like they represent, if you take all the cooperatives combined, they represent more than 10% of the GDP of the planet. So it's extremely strong and a big group of people. And what cooperatives want is, and that's what we've been working on lately, is to get their own sovereign network, so they can actually have some form of a super app or somewhere where they can have like host the digital life of their participants, have financial transaction that can run onto it, having their own system to be able to transact and to have like their own like internal system and internal apps. So we've been looking at that a lot. Um, and this is something that will come very soon. So far, the way we've been expanding is really like with a very large group of people who understand that this needs to happen, and it's lots of geeks and of people who just love the technology by itself and participate in the network. They know that there are big things that are coming that way. And it's been a very interesting journey, like the way we've been connecting with different communities and even with governments. As I was mentioning a bit before to you, we are organizing the Deep In Summit now on the 2nd of July in Mombasa, 4th of July in Zanzibar, along with EV3, that is one of our support and investor and for the project, that is one of the leading Deep In supporters. And we're organizing that with them. Before, 2 years ago, it was in San Francisco. A year ago, it was in New York, and this year it will be in Mombasa and Zanzibar.
Wow, what a great journey you've sort of brought the Deep Summit from all the relatively developed places to now the developing places, which I feel do offer a lot of scope for growth. And a term that caught my interest while I was reading about Threefold was regenerative. And you've, of course, mastered the decentralized regenerative model, which sort of gives power back to the communities to own their data and infrastructure, which hasn't happened, which is, of course, a core goal of the Web3 space, but hasn't happened in reality. I would love to understand how the regenerative model sort of translates in the current context of internet. If you can speak a little bit about it and maybe decode it for someone who has no sort of knowledge of what regenerative would mean.
Yeah. Well, I think what is important to understand here is that, uh, like, the internet already represents such a big part in the consumption of energy for the planet. But also, there is no way back. Like, we're not going back with the internet. Like, it's just such a beautiful human progress. It's just something that is here to stay. The way we've been understanding that is like, if you think about um, the way things work in nature, it's a balance between efficiency and resilience. And today we have those gigantic data centers that are extremely efficient, but they're not resilient. And for most of them, they're absolutely not sustainable. So, like the way that we've been thinking of threefold and of this internet concept is really about bringing the compute as close as possible to the people by being at the edge, is enabling communities and countries to have their own local, like, containerized version of data centers that they can scale also at the edge. And also, let's remember something, like, for most of the countries in the world, internet is GDP negative. They don't have their internet. What they have is a small and long cable to the internet, but they don't have the internet. That's actually crazy when you think about that. You can look at it as some form of neo-colonization, where you have like the data of a country and of some citizens that are being hosted somewhere else. So this is actually not making the country any sovereign, and the community in the country any sovereign. So it's extremely fragile. And the other problem here is that also like because of like the system that is being created, the energy consumption is huge. So it's not regenerative and it's not resilient. So that's exactly what we want to achieve. And that's
That's
why we're in
definitely
Zanzibar. That's why we're in Africa, and that we decided to move with most of the team there and create that local office and be present on the ground and connect with the country.
wow. That's definitely a revolutionary thought, and we hope and wish that something like this truly exists, not just for few communities, but for the rest of the world. Your journey, Florian, has been really interesting from Apple, and I was reading on your LinkedIn that you've been a core contributor to the marketing of iPad and iPhones, to now something so commercialized to something that's a lot less commercialized, but you're aiming for, I hope, a similar sort of success for what you're building. So, my first question around this journey of yours would be, why this switch, and what exactly in those times motivated you to make this shift in mindset that you had?
Right, right. Well, for me, it was quite. It was a very strong decision, but at the same time, it was quite obvious. Um, I see the world that makes me extremely disappointed, I would say, for the use of another word. But yeah, actually, pretty disappointed on many aspects. And I could see with decentralization and with um, creating those alternatives to the current system of the internet and to the current centralization, I could really see that there was an opportunity to create such a better world, such like a more interesting world. And it ended up being like a non-choice because it was like there is no other way. Otherwise, if we don't do it, there basically won't be any interesting tomorrow to live. So it's literally what happened in terms of transition. It was really like looking at this. Now I have to say that I miss sometimes some of when you create some new technology and new visions for the world, as we're doing with Threefold. You have kind of a true hero journey where you're like building the plumbing layer, and sometimes it's super hard. Like it's not like it takes time to create great products. It takes time to build until you've got the plumbing layer ready and until you have the right earth. You just cannot do it. So it takes some time. It takes definitely some time. But I can't wait to see all the beautiful products and things that will be developed and created on top of Threefold. We even have a partner named Your Data, who is based in the Netherlands, who just launched last week a phone that he called the On Phone that runs onto Threefold, onto the Mycelium network that we created. So there will be more things to come, I think. It's more decentralized by essence, so we like more people can come and launch their own nodes, their own phone, their own things using the platform and what we created so far. But yeah, it's a very interesting moment that we are in.
Absolutely. We're definitely looking at super interesting times to come. I'd also like to touch upon our World Ventures, which of course describes itself as an open source venture builder. If you can explain the context of open source in terms of venture building and how you're contributing to our World Ventures per se, that would be great.
Yeah, so just to give a bit of context here, a couple of years ago, we met with the president of Tanzania and president of Zanzibar. Actually, on top of this idea, we had already this movement in many countries with the open source movement already in 51 countries, but we were missing the possibility to go deeper with an entire place. And we could understand that there was this opportunity to work closely together and to show at scale what a peer-to-peer internet system and economy on top would look like. And that's really what happened with this encounter with Tanzania, then Zanzibar. And based on that collaboration, we created our world, connecting like all the different like pieces to the puzzle that we had created, from Threefold to Sikana, the education platform I had created before, and even like the free zone that we have in Zanzibar. We created this all together as what we call a venture creator. And all the different supports and proceeds that will come from the free zone in Zanzibar will be here to support all types of ventures that are building on top of the Threefold grid, that are building with the same principles that we have, that are people and planet first, and respecting open source and respecting all the different uh, key values that we want to see in the project that we support.
Mm-hmm. And Sikana, I feel, was something revolutionary that you thought in terms of education, online education, and its accessibility. Are there any key lessons that you've learned from your experience with Sikana, and how you're sort of applying them directly to Threefold in our world today?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's interesting as you are from India. Sikna
Mm,
means teach and learn.
I know.
Means teach and
Couldn't
learn.
figure that out. Right. I was
It's
thinking if.
yeah, that's related. It was the idea of having something that goes in uh, both sense. No, it's a two-way street to teach and to learn. So that was the beginning of this learning platform. What I think what was a big learning is that it takes time to build a solid community. Like unless you go like the like unless you buy the people that support you literally, as lots of projects are doing, it takes time to create a resilient community. Now what I saw along those years, that when you create a resilient community, it can last forever, especially if it's based on values and if it's based on like a long-term vision for a project. And I think that's exactly what we have with Threefold. That's why we created over the last couple of years. Um, we didn't do a commercial launch for our token. Like we never really pushed it, never launched onto the exchange, never did like really like what could have like um, pushed the project forward. But it was voluntarily that we created that timing to actually set the stage and truly be ready. Like having this country partner, having this corporate partner, having other partnerships also onto the ecosystem. We had the visit of Near Foundation and Singularity Net last week in Zanzibar. Now we have a partnership with Peak Network that we announced 2 weeks ago. So it's really like about building these partnerships. And I think the learning that I had back then was really like that. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. If you want to go long, go together. And it's really like I think where we are now. Like it took a long time, but I think that now we have a strong and robust community and support for the project, and everyone is invited. All the people understand that this makes sense. Um, I think on top of like uh, being part of something that is extremely good for the world, obviously there will be a strong financial reward, because like uh, we're doing something big. We're talking about the internet. Also, we're talking about something that is significant in terms of size. We're talking about AWS. We're talking about Google Cloud. We're talking about all those centralized systems. But the alternative to it. So it's something that will be also very rewarding.
Hmm, absolutely, absolutely. With all of these three ventures, I've seen, rather with, Threefold, Our World, Sikana, and before that, with, of course, Apple, you've had some great market insights. Now, how do all of those tie together to shape the companies or the ventures that you're building all together? And I'd love to understand how, a market knowledge of tech marketing, and then education, of course, venture building, infrastructure, all of these have come together to sort of shape the kind of person that you are today.
Yeah. Well, just to clarify here, like each of these ventures, they have their own team, they have their own operation, and they run by themselves. They are really independent, but they have like a sense of collaboration because we're looking at the overall. And actually, what was very interesting is that um, when we started to gather all these different pieces of this equation into our world, um, some people like didn't really understand. They were like, "Why are you doing this in this way?" Like just because like the American culture of startup is like take one very specific problem, fix it, fail fast, and go deep and just do that little thing. But what the way that we're operating is that we're looking at more holistically at a system because we want to actually solve a system. We started with the internet because that was the first system to think, to think through and to fix. But that's just like the step number one of something that is way bigger. It is an ecosystem of on top that can actually provide a new financial system, a new educational system, uh, on running on top of the triple grid. So that the overall vision is to go a new legal system with the free zones. That's why we have Balaji from the network state, who is one of our supports. So it's really like a bigger vision that most of the people don't are not used to work with because
Mm-hmm.
they are focused on one small problem, but that's why you cannot actually solve the overall equation or like a
Mm-hmm.
certain overall equation as a system if you just look at one piece of the problem. So it's like if you, when you go to the doctor, he's not gonna say like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm taking care of your heart, but I won't take care of your liver because it's not my thing." Like no, like it's your doctor is taking care of your body. So I think that's a lot about the way that we've been looking at it. And what is interesting is that president of countries, a bigger corporation, they understand pretty well what we're doing because when you're a president of a country, you don't stop looking at the school system because you look at health and you need to take care of your citizens. So you need to understand how to fix things at scale. So I think that's kind of of the ambition at the level of our world, of the incubator and venture creator. Um, and yeah, but now my number one focus is on threefold. It's really where I
Right.
spend most of my time. It's where like we really put all the energy on threefold because it is a very important piece of this equation.
Absolutely. I totally agree. If you can maybe paint a roadmap for threefold, what's happening, what's to come, and how are things looking for threefold at the moment?
Well, as I was saying, we just announced this partnership with Peak. We have the Deep In Summit, 4th of July. We'll be with the president of Zanzibar. Will be doing announcement most probably with us regarding the free zone. Um, we have released the version 3.8 now of the triple grid, and now we keep on working for the next iteration of it, where we will add to threefold a marketplace where people will be able to sell solutions directly peer to peer on top of the triple grid. That will be a great evolution of what we did. And also,
Yeah.
we're working towards the launch of a new token in the coming months, 6 months, something like that. That will be the next evolution of the triple grid into version 4. So
Yeah.
that's been the key aspect we've been focusing on.
Mm-hmm. And finally, Florian, how do you measure success for the things that you've built, the projects that you've built? I mean, what are your personal metrics for measuring success? Is it adoption numbers, a community impact, technological breakthroughs, or something entirely different? I would love to know it from a seasoned entrepreneur like yourself.
I think engagement is a very important metrics to me. Like I feel that when people engage and they reach out and they talk to you and they find you and they find your phone number or they find you on the website somewhere and they really try to reach out, they engage. Um, I think that's when we're becoming successful. You know, like engagement for me is everything. Like there is lots of noise. Um, Out there and it's hard to be heard, but it's better to be engaged with few people that really go deep with you than just having quantity because like there is a magic number of 10,000 people. When 10,000 people are truly engaged, you can reach millions. but you need to have these first 10,000, and they need to be super engaged. It cannot be just something superficial. Like people are like, no, the Discord and how many followers you have on Discord, like great. But for me, it's like liquid love. People they have like how many projects they have on their Discord. So they just like keep adding one more, but what's the engagement out there? How much time do they really spend on the project? Is there any like relationship with the project? Or it's just people who are there because there are some coins to grab, because there are some tasks to perform? Then it's just like decentralizing your QA tester into a larger audience in some part of the world, but it doesn't mean that you actually engage people for the mission that you're in. So I think engagement and stronger engagement for me is the key matrix for success.
Wow, very well said. Because a lot of entrepreneurs now are just chasing numbers, be it social numbers or, like you mentioned, Discord and the multiple groups that you might have on Telegram. But the true, I think, marker of success is when people are engaging with you and when there's a clear relationship of love, of belongingness to that project. And that's what truly matters. And as we wrap up our interview for today, do you have any final words? Maybe some key pieces of advice for entrepreneurs in this space? We know that in the Web3 space, there are a lot of budding entrepreneurs, builders. So, Florian, anything that you might have to recommend for them?
No, my key advice would be like look at what you're building and think about how will this product or whatever you build will truly impact the world in a good way, because it's for me my biggest advice. Because what if you're building something with the heart that you truly believe will push humanity forward, and it's not just like a gimmick for short-term gain, but something that can actually create an impact while using the power of crypto and of blockchain to really like push it forward and bring it at the edge, and but using that power really like going back to like why are we doing this? Because for me it's like it's really something that makes me sad sometimes, where I look around, I'm like, is it just it's not about becoming just a casino. It's about creating a system that is here and create an impact at scale. So I think that it's exactly what I would recommend. Do something that will make a difference, because whatever happens you will always be happy about the outcome, because you will know that you were pushing in the right direction in something that was meaningful. So that would be my recommendation. And the other recommendation is just like find me on the internet, reach out to me, find me on LinkedIn, find me on X, find me in Zanzibar, find me at the next conference. I'll be there, present and happy to answer any question, connect with some of the people who are supporting us, connect with the venture creator in Zanzibar, etc., etc. So
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Yes, very well said,
that's
Florian.
my
Thank you so much
advice.
for.
And last,
Yeah, yeah. And I would, in fact, urge all our audiences, users to go ahead and find Florian. He's doing some amazing work. A great piece of advice there to follow your passion, follow something that your heart truly believes in rather than chasing numbers or money, because that's something that'll surely fade away in the end. It's not here to stay, but the good deeds that you do are here to stay. Some amazing points that you made, Florian, and I must congratulate you for the amazing work that you're doing in Zanzibar as well as in other communities that you're working very closely with. I would urge our users to check you out, check Threefold as well as our ventures, because there's a lot of potential there. And I'm sure that any questions or any other advices that our audiences might need, they can hit you up directly on the multiple social media platforms that you have. So, once again, thank you so much for joining us for the Money and Me podcast on the Coin Republic. I'm Varuni, your host. I'll be
it was a
signing off.
pleasure.
It was my pleasure to interview you, Florian. Thanks a lot.